Over the next few minutes, I want to share with you some of the primary ways you can expect to receive information about the Assembly before, during, and after your time in Pittsburgh. We'll do that first, followed by a few tips in relating to the media. As Tyler said, if you have a question, please send it in and we'll see if we can answer it. And Tyler, you get the most difficult ones. One of the vital areas on which we rely day in and day out is communication in small to large ways. How we get our information varies from word of mouth to billboards to the telephone, the printed page to television to online sources like email and Facebook and Twitter. Excuse me. When you think about it, we are bombarded constantly with communication through multiple sources. And when it comes to the General Assembly, it's not much different. Once folks find out that you are a commissioner or advisory delegate, a good number of them will want to be in touch with you. Perhaps they already have been, to seek from or relay information to you about myriad things, such as items of business before the Assembly, special events in Pittsburgh, maybe even linking up with that college friend you haven't seen since graduation. How you sort through all of that will depend on your role at the Assembly, your interest in particular topics, and much more. You can look to the Office of the General Assembly as your primary anchor when it comes to providing official information to assist and support you and keep you up to date as you do your work. Here are some of those ways. Already, you are relying on the General Assembly meeting service as your source of information for registration, housing, travel, and other logistics to get you to Pittsburgh. You're looking to PC Biz to find all of the business coming to the Assembly. As you learned in a previous webinar, this electronic system will be where you access each overture and follow its progress, first through committee and then the full Assembly. If you haven't begun to delve into PC Biz to study the nearly 100 overtures to date and the reports of various special committees and more, we encourage you to do so sooner than later. There's a lot to get through. Another primary source of information that is already in place is the official GA 220 website. From it, you can access registration, PC Biz, orientation resources, information about Pittsburgh itself, and so much more. This site will become increasingly robust as we move closer to the start of the Assembly on June the 30th. Now, once you're on site in Pittsburgh, here's what you can expect to see and how you can access official information. Hang on to that official GA 220 program book you'll receive when you check in at the registration area. It will contain each day's schedule, location of meetings, and so much more. The primary hub for our communication effort in Pittsburgh will be the Communication Center. Barry Creech from the General Assembly Mission Council and I will be the co-managers. It will be located in Hall E of the Convention Center. That's the same location where you'll find the tracking folks, staff from the Office of the General Assembly, the General Assembly Mission Council, and a lot of other folks. In the Communication Center, we'll be doing a number of things. We will have a cadre or a dozen or so reporters. Most of them are volunteers who have other jobs across the church and offer their journalistic gifts to the church in this way. Between them, they will be very busy. They're going to cover every Assembly committee, 20 in all, from beginning to end, including when each committee reports to the full Assembly. They will also be covering all of the special events, the meals from morning through evening, each worship service, the moderator election, book signings and other special events in the exhibit hall, and feature stories about your commissioner colleagues or the Committee on Local Arrangements or whatever else happens to pop up as newsworthy. We'll have media specialists in the Communication Center. Among their many tasks will be to help welcome secular and other church press folks, newspapers, and TV crews. In the Communication Center, we'll produce a daily newspaper, the General Assembly News, or GA News for short. We'll have 8 issues in all, beginning that first Saturday, June the 30th, through Saturday, July the 7th. Each issue will feature news and photos from the previous day and any other information necessary to help you navigate through the day ahead. You'll find the GA News first thing in the mornings in a number of spots throughout the Convention Center. Look for copies in newsstands close to the plenary hall, the exhibit hall, eating areas, and other high-traffic areas. In the Communication Center will be the place where the GA 220 website will be updated numerous times throughout each day of the Assembly. While some of the news articles and photos will appear in the printed GA News, all of the articles and photos will be posted online. It's quite an impressive photo gallery that our 2 on-site photographers will have amassed by the end of the assembly, and chances are good that you'll see yourself in one of the pictures. And please note, our photographers will be asking for your name if they shoot you so that we can correctly identify you in the photo. On that website, we'll also be posting breaking news headlines. And you'll want to tell the folks back home that they'll be able to catch each plenary session of the assembly in real time as it is live streamed from the website. If you want a hard copy of any news articles that you'll see online, come see us in the Communications Center, where we'll have available each article as print on demand. And if you have some free time and want to chat with us in the Communications Center, we'd love to see you. A friendly face will always be there. At the end of each day of the assembly, Jerry Van Martyr, coordinator of the Presbyterian News Service, will be recording a short summary of the day's highlights. It will be available by phone through the information number found on the screen. We'll also be tweeting before and during the assembly. You'll see the hashtag on the screen. Mostly, we'll be announcing the results of decisions made by committees and the full assembly. As I mentioned earlier, there will be lots of folks and organizations that already have been or will want to be in touch with all commissioners and advisory delegates. Primarily, they will be advocating for their perspective on overtures, or they'll want you to know about a special event or other things. By virtue of the standing rules of the General Assembly, the Office of the General Assembly will share your name and mailing address to an approved list of PCUSA-related agencies and organizations. The cost is $30 for the list, which is shared electronically, not in hard copy. And we ask those who receive that list not to forward it to others and to only use it one time. Lots of folks and organizations will continue to want to give materials to all commissioners and advisory delegates once you're in Pittsburgh. And they have 2 options for doing that. They can put materials on tables designated for that purpose and reserved for commissioners and advisory delegates that you can then pick up at your convenience. They can also hand materials directly to you, but they can only do so outside of the convention center and not within 25 feet of the designated entrance. Rarely, once you as a commissioner or advisory delegate are in plenary, you'll find the materials are what we call thrown to you. We don't literally toss them to you, but it means we distribute them to you at your seat in the plenary hall. If that happens, it is done only by the approval of the Bills and Overtures Committee. We'll have folks who are floor runners during plenary sessions. They'll be able to relay an individual message from someone to you if needed. And there's always the GA Information Center, which will be front and center in the convention center. It's where we'll have on-site registration. It's where you can have folks back home call in case of an emergency and they can't find you. It's where you'll be able to check email at a few stations we'll have set up. And there will always be a friendly face there to help you with whatever you need. Just a quick word about electronic media and networking. We cannot prevent commissioners and advisory delegates from tweeting and such during committee meetings and plenary sessions. We will be asking you, however, to honor the covenant of being fully present as you do your work, listening for the leading of the Spirit as you discern the mind of Christ for the church. This is important work that you will be doing. We'll have sources of information for you following the assembly. You'll want to look for a pastoral letter from the new moderator, vice moderator, and other leadership that will go out to you and to the larger church immediately after the assembly adjourns on July the 7th. The hope is that the letter will be shared with as many congregations as possible that next morning in worship. You'll also want to look for Assembly in Brief. It's a bulletin insert size publication that will be available within a week or so after the assembly, just as soon as we can get it written and designed. While we've done print versions in previous years, this year we'll be doing it electronically so that you can have it sooner and download it and print it. Previous commissioners and advisory delegates have told us it's a great source of succinct information for them as they put together their reports to their presbyteries and other places. I think those are the highlights of the sources of information you'll have as commissioners and advisory delegates. And I want to mention a quick word about media relations. There will be secular and other church press at the assembly. You'll see them in committee meetings, most likely hear them as well as they use their laptops to take notes. They will also have a designated area in the plenary hall. Occasionally, we have had TV crews come to cover parts of the proceedings. We'll be having press conferences throughout the Assembly, always after the moderator's election and usually after the Assembly has taken a major action. At any time during the Assembly, perhaps before or after, you may be approached by one of these reporters on the phone or in person wanting your opinion on a decision the Assembly is about to make or has made. You are certainly free to answer their questions in any way you want, but know that you also always have the option to refer them to the moderator of the Assembly committee you're serving on, or to the new moderator of the General Assembly, or to the stated clerk of the General Assembly. You can also refer them to us in the Communications Center if you'd like. In other words, you can answer, but you're not compelled to answer a reporter's question if you don't feel comfortable doing so. Again, I want to thank you for your service to the church as a commissioner or advisory delegate. You're in for a tremendous experience, one that I hope will deepen your relationship to God and expand your work and witness for the sake of the gospel of Jesus Christ. I also hope it gives you a new appreciation for what it means to be Presbyterian. See you in Pittsburgh.
Thank you so much, Sharon. That was really helpful. At this time, Sharon is going to answer a few questions that we've received. As a reminder, any questions that we don't get to now will be answered by email. So the first question we've got: how long will we be able to access the information on the GA220 website after the Assembly? The news and photos, for example.
You'll be able to access them anytime after the Assembly, Tyler, until you're old enough to retire, and then some. If you go online now, you'll find the last 3 or 4 assemblies, and you can peruse those websites and find all the news and photos and other information, and it will be the same for this one as well.
The second question that we've received is, are press conferences open to anyone, and where will they be held?
They are open to anyone, as space permits, of course, and there's usually lots of space. The press conferences will be held in Hall D, which is next to Hall E on the street level. If you find your way to the Communications Center, then we can help you get to the press conference room, but you're not far from it at all at that point.
Yeah, and the final question for today: what if we notice something in the newspaper or online in a story that needs to be corrected?
If you'll bring it to the attention of us in the Communications Center, we will be more than happy to do that. A lot of times we can't correct a newspaper article in the next day's newspaper because lots of times because of space limitations, but we will certainly correct it immediately online, and that will be the most up-to-date version.
Well, Sharon, thank you for sharing this overview of communications for the General Assembly, and thanks to all of you that have joined us online today. Immediately following this webinar, you'll be asked to complete a brief survey asking you about your experience of today's webinar. We encourage you to take a few moments to complete that survey. Next week's webinar on Tuesday, May 1st, will be about parliamentary procedures in the committee work at the Assembly. You'll be receiving an email with registration information, as well as information about upcoming webinars. All webinars are being recorded and made available through the 220th General Assembly website at pcusa.org/GA220. Once again, thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.